The Galactic throne, heart of the Valkyrie dynasty, had issued countless decrees. None had been refused, until this one.
By my authority, the Terran Republic will send an ambassador. They will present themselves and learn their place.
The decree was sealed with the Imperial crest and hurled through hyperspace toward Earth, wrapped in the velvet of an ultimatum. In the Terran Senate, the message arrived during an otherwise ordinary session. It was read aloud, and the chamber erupted. A motion was proposed amid the laughter. The vote took seconds. The board flashed, 452 to 0. Earth's official response. Ambassador dispatched. Estimated arrival, 3 weeks. Not a single senator kept a straight face. Earth had just sent a message that needed no translation. The message was transmitted back into the void, a single line of text where an empire expected obeisance. And with that, the Terran Senate adjourned. The throne would receive exactly what it asked for, and not one thing more. But the throne did not yet know what Earth meant by ambassador. It would learn. In Earth orbit, a single ship was selected. Not a diplomatic shuttle, but a dreadnought, freshly refitted and hungry for a mission, the TRS Diplomatic Solution. 14,000 Marines, enough guns to crack a continent, and one empty diplomatic suite. In the shipyard's foundry, a simple bronze plate was cast. Thick, polished, built to survive the void, and it bore a single word. A word the galaxy would soon learn to pronounce, but for now the letters were obscured by the welder's arc. They bolted it to the bow, right above the forward batteries. A small, gleaming rectangle against the dark armor. The ship's crew loaded last. Captain Brian walked her corridors once, alone, and allowed himself a quiet smile. No ambassadors had booked passage. No attachés, no translators, just 14,000 Marines and an envelope with instructions. The throne's last transmission was a reminder. The ceremony awaits only the Terran representative. Earth did not reply. The dry dock clamps released. The engines hummed to life, and the diplomatic solution turned toward the stars. In 3 weeks, the Valkyrie capital would receive its ambassador, and the galaxy would learn a new definition of diplomacy. The diplomatic solution engaged its primary drive, Earth shrinking to a blue marble, then vanishing as the ship tore into hyperspace. For 3 weeks it ran silent through the slipstream, a moving fortress in a tunnel of warped starlight. On the capital world, royal gardeners trimmed ceremonial hedges. Flight controllers cleared airspace. The red carpet was literally woven with gold.
I want the Terran to feel the full weight of the Valkyrie dynasty the moment his shuttle touches down. This is a summons, not a visit.
The palace itself seemed to hold its breath, every servant and courier moving with the precision of a ceremony rehearsed for 1,000 years.
Let them see what they are dealing with.
Then, at the system's boundary, a sensor buoy from the outer belt registered an arrival. Not a shuttle. It was immense, angular, and accelerating on a direct vector to the capital. The transponder identified it as the TRS Diplomatic Solution. In the palace, the flight controller stared at the monitor, then called his superior, his voice cracking. High Sovereign Joseph read the initial report in silence. The ambassador he had summoned was not a diplomat, and it was coming tomorrow, at 800 hours. The TRS Diplomatic Solution emerged from hyperspace directly into the capital's orbital approach, and it did not decelerate. The honor guard ships, gilded and graceful, scrambled to avoid collision. Their precise formation shattered into panicked vectors. One such ship, a royal cutter, peeled away so sharply its gravitic compensators whined in protest. It fled, and there, on the dreadnought's bow, visible now to every sensor on the planet, a polished bronze plaque bore the single word, Ambassador.
Joseph stared at the feed. That is a warship.
The word spread through the palace in seconds. Diplomats abandoned protocol. Guards gripped their weapons.
Summon the council, now.
Within the hour, the throne room was transformed into a war cabinet. Admiral Vex paced like a caged predator, while Counselor Thera sat very still.
Someone will explain how a dreadnought with a plaque qualifies as an ambassador, or I will find someone who can.
No one in that room had an answer. and the dreadnought had yet to say a word.
Open a channel. I will speak to whoever commands that vessel.
Aboard the TRS diplomatic solution, the comms officer suppressed a smirk and routed the transmission to the captain.
Hi, Sovereign Joseph. I am Captain Brian. Did you have a question about our credentials?
A dreadnought is not an ambassador. We demanded an envoy.
The Republic interprets your invitation literally. I am the ambassador. My credentials are externally displayed.
The throne room exploded. Courtiers shouted over one another, their protocols forgotten.
This is an act of war. Destroy it now, while we still can.
And if we fire, we give them exactly the fight they are ready for. That plaque is bait.
Then what would you have us do? Kneel?
No answer came. The human ship just waited in silence, its plaque glittering in the sunlight, as if inviting exactly that. 6 hours after the standoff began, the dreadnought's engines lit. It moved toward the system's densest asteroid field. The throne watched through long-range arrays. Joseph stood rigid. Thera's hand hovered over a tactical pad.
Initiate diplomatic activity Alpha 1. Standard greeting salvo. Target the large nickel iron cluster, if you please.
A beam of hellish orange speared from the bow, and the asteroid ceased to exist.
They are testing our resolve. While we debate, they practice annihilating fortified targets.
Yes, Admiral. Practicing, not attacking us. We still have a choice.
Every moment of inaction makes the throne appear smaller.
The bombardment continued for 17 minutes. Secondary batteries stitched patterns through the rock. When it turned back to orbit, the dreadnought left behind a spreading fan of glowing dust. The throne did not respond. The ambassador had delivered its first diplomatic communiqué. At dawn, the dreadnought broke orbit and descended. Its shadow fell across the continent's largest military academy. No weapons charged, no shields raised, just the sheer mass of a warship the size of a mountain, passing at 10,000 meters. Cadets broke formation. Instructors screamed. The academy's alarm klaxons howled until someone shut them off in shame.
Smooth flying helm. Let's not scratch the paint.
A single academy trainer fighter scrambled, weapons hot. It climbed toward the dreadnought like a moth toward a forge.
Point defense tracking only. Let them see we're not twitchy.
The fighter pilot realized the dreadnought wasn't reacting. He broke off and dove back to base. His flight path slurred with panic.
They are teaching our next generation a lesson, and not one cadet will forget it.
At the palace, no one spoke. The only sound was Vex's fist hammering the table. The dreadnought climbed back to orbit. The diplomatic activity was complete. The Academy commandant resigned that same hour. The next day, precisely at noon, Captain Brian opened a silver pocket watch on the bridge.
Noon. Fire the salute.
The forward laser turret discharged a thin red beam into the atmosphere, perfectly harmless, brilliantly visible. The palace windows flared with reflected light, as if the sun itself had flickered in acknowledgement.
Good. Log it. Diplomatic Activity 7. Protocol greeting.
The ritual repeated the next day, and the next, always at noon, never a second late. The bridge crew grew so accustomed that the weapons officer started bringing coffee to the firing sequence.
I think they're starting to appreciate the gesture.
Down on the planet, millions of Velkari now paused at midday, waiting for the sky to flash. The throne said nothing. But in the palace, every noon, Joseph flinched. Weeks passed. The dreadnought did not leave. Its shadow on the capital became as familiar as the twin moons. Children pointed at the ship when it passed overhead, their parents quiet and uncertain.
We are becoming a footnote in our own capital. Every day that ship stays, the dynasty shrinks.
What would you have us do, Admiral? The human is waiting for us to break, and we are close.
She's right. We are breaking, but the alternative is unthinkable.
Each night, Joseph retreated to his chambers, the dreadnought visible through the window, a permanent star of silent judgment. Admiral Vex drew up invasion plans daily, each more desperate. Thera opposed them, but her voice grew thin. In the city, a quiet murmur began. Not rebellion, but a question. Why had the throne summoned this, and why could it not send it away? Joseph heard the murmur. It followed him through the marble halls at night.
How do you negotiate with a monument?
On the 45th day, Joseph did not sleep. He stood at the window until the first moon set, watching the dreadnought's lights blink in steady, unhurried patience.
They could have fired on us 40 days ago. They chose not to.
He pulled up the tactical assessments, the casualty projections, the kill box diagrams. All pointed to the same conclusion.
They are not attacking because they do not need to. They are waiting for us to understand.
He recalled his own words. They will learn their place. The phrase curdled in his memory. The plaque. That single word. Not a boast. A statement of fact, Ambassador. The Republic had sent exactly what was asked for.
They will not leave. This is our new sky now.
When he opened his eyes, the dreadnought was still there, unchanged. The humans were not coming to the palace. They had made the palace come to them.
The old way is over. The throne commanded, and they answered with a lesson.
He told no one. Not Vex, not Thera. The admission was too large for the council chamber. It would have to wait. On the 46th day, a Velkari patrol corvette broke formation without orders and fired a warning shot across the dreadnought's bow.
Point defense. Acquire lock. Do not fire unless fired upon again.
The dreadnought's turrets swiveled, laser sights painting the corvette in perfect, silent precision. The corvette's captain saw the lock, killed his engines instantly, and broadcast an emergency retreat at maximum burn. The dreadnought let it go. Turrets returned to standby without a single shot. The incident was over in 11 seconds. In the throne room, the council watched the sensor replay in dead silence.
That was not authorized. I did not order it.
Admiral Vex, your patrols answer to you. If you cannot control them, I will find someone who can.
Your Highness, what matters is that the humans did not escalate. They could have. They chose not to.
Joseph stared at the dreadnought on the display. For the first time, he felt not anger, but something closer to respect. Joseph summoned Vex and Thera to a private chamber. No scribes, no courtiers. Thyra spoke first, her voice weary but steady.
Your Highness, the humans are not punishing us. They are teaching us. We must learn the lesson. The longer we wait, the more we look like a dynasty that cannot face its own creation.
And you would have us surrender? I will not be part of this.
Vex slammed his fist on the table and left the room. Joseph did not call him back.
Your Highness, you see the truth. The only reset is to speak to the ambassador directly.
The next step felt like a betrayal of his own crown.
You must be the one to extend the hand, Highness, before the people lose faith.
Joseph said nothing, but in his silence, the decision was already forming. 3 more noonday salutes lit the sky. Joseph barely flinched. The dreadnought had become a fixture, and so had his decision. He sat at his desk and dictated a message alone, his voice hoarse.
To Captain Brian of the TRS Diplomatic Solution, I request a private audience aboard your vessel. No escort.
He paused, the words hanging in the air.
This could be the end of the dynasty, or the beginning of something else.
He tapped the final command that would erase all evidence of hesitation. The message encoded, encrypted, and shot toward the dreadnought on a tight beam laser. Joseph sat back, his heart pounding. The throne had just asked for permission to board.
Now we wait.
For the first time since the dreadnought's arrival, Joseph looked at it and did not feel diminished. He felt expectant. Aboard the dreadnought, the comms officer handed the message to Captain Brian with a raised eyebrow. Brian read it and allowed himself a single, satisfied nod.
Send this reply. High Sovereign Joseph, your request is accepted. Docking Bay 2. Tomorrow 0900 hours. Come alone.
In the palace, the reply arrived less than an hour later. Joseph read it with a strange composure.
Alone, on their warship. This is truly happening.
He recorded his acceptance with a single word and sent it back before his pride could object.
I have commanded fleets. I can survive a conversation.
He instructed his chamberlain to prepare formal robes for the next morning. No armor, no guards. The night stretched long. Joseph did not sleep. He stood at the window, tracing the dreadnought's dark outline with his eyes.
Tomorrow history changes, and I will be the one who writes it.
Through the long hours, the dreadnought's running lights blinked steadily, as if counting down the minutes until the High Sovereign would come to it. At dawn, Joseph walked across the palace landing pad alone. No guards, no courtiers, just the sound of his own footsteps and the distant hum of the dreadnought's engines.
If I do not return, history will remember that I walked onto their ship without a weapon.
The shuttle rose on silent thrusters. Through the viewport, the jeweled capital shrank below, replaced by the growing shadow of the warship. The hangar bay doors of the dreadnought parted like a mountain splitting open. Inside, a cavern of steel and light. The shuttle passed through the atmospheric containment field and into the bay, dwarfed by gantries, loading arms, and the impassive bulkheads of a fully armed warship.
This is not a ship. This is a nation.
The shuttle set down on a designated pad, barely the size of a dinner table against the deck. The hatch seals gasped. Joseph rose from his seat. Through the viewport, he saw a lone figure in dark uniform waiting on the deck, hands clasped behind his back.
He didn't post a guard. He came himself. He is not afraid of me.
The hatch opened. The air inside the dreadnought was cool and smelled of electricity. Captain Brian waited, and the High Sovereign stepped forward.
High Sovereign, welcome aboard the diplomatic solution. If you'll follow me, we'll take the scenic route.
I did not expect a tour. I came to talk.
You will. But first, I want you to see what an ambassador's credentials really look like.
They walked through the spine of the warship. The air hummed with generators, and the footsteps of 14,000 Marines echoed in the distance. An open bay revealed ranks of armored Marines standing at parade rest, their weapons polished, their faces invisible behind visors. Not a single one moved. Further on, an armory stood open, displaying racks of combat drones and missile tubes that could be armed in seconds.
He is showing me his army, and he hasn't said a word about it.
We're almost there. The ready room is quieter.
The door hissed open onto a small room, a metal table, 2 chairs, and a bottle of Terran whiskey with 2 glasses.
Please, sit. This is where we stop being titles and start being people. I keep this bottle for difficult conversations. It's old, but it's honest.
Joseph watched the amber liquid swirl. In Valkyrie tradition, accepting a drink from an adversary was an act of deep trust.
What else was he here for, if not to try something new?
I'm not going to poison the first monarch who accepted my invitation.
Joseph lifted the glass and drank. The warmth spread through his chest, unexpected and soothing.
I must admit, I did not anticipate this. The flavor, the warmth, it is not what I expected from a warship.
It's Terran whiskey. It has a habit of making enemies into drinking companions.
For the first time, Joseph met the captain's eyes without calculation. The tension in his shoulders eased.
You are not the brute I prepared to face, Captain.
No, I'm the ambassador. And now that we've had a drink, let's talk honestly. So, Your Highness, let me ask you directly. When you summoned an ambassador, what was it you truly wanted?
He could lie. But what was the point now? Submission. I wanted submission.
And when that didn't come, you considered threats. That didn't work either.
No, it did not.
The Republic doesn't bow to empires. We have a long history with that kind of demand. It never ends well for the ones making it.
The captain's words were measured, but the room suddenly felt heavy with 3 centuries of human refusals.
So let's begin again. What do you want now?
The question caught him off guard. He had armored himself for demands, not introspection.
Because I'm about to tell you what Earth wants, and then you can decide if the Valkyrie dynasty endures this day. Earth wants a mutual trade agreement, recognition of Terran sovereignty, and a permanent diplomatic presence. This dreadnought, it becomes the embassy.
That is all. No demands for territory, no reparations.
That's all. No conquest, no reparations, just respect.
Respect. Not the word he had expected from the blunt instrument that had humiliated his fleets for weeks. You brought a warship to demand recognition as an equal?
We didn't start the day as equals. You had to learn we are.
The bottle stood between them, half empty now, a silent witness to a dynasty being offered an exit without destruction.
He had been prepared to fight for survival, and they offered him a handshake.
We are patient, Your Highness, but the morning grows late. Does the dynasty endure?
Joseph said nothing. He simply stared at the captain, and in that silence, the weight of 90 days was finally being measured.
Joseph let out a breath that carried 90 days of tension. Then it endures. I accept your terms, Captain.
Brian nodded once, then keyed his comm. Bridge, retrieve the replacement plaque. Unbolt the old one. The new reads, Embassy.
Outside, in the stark vacuum of orbit, a space-suited engineer drifted to the bow, his tools glinting in the raw sunlight. The ambassador plaque was unbolted with careful precision, its brief but historic duty now fulfilled. In its place, a heavier plaque settled, the word embassy deeply embossed, fresh bolts biting into the hull. The dreadnought had won its argument without firing a single lethal shot. It would never leave. Brian escorted Joseph back through the corridor, past the silent Marines, toward the waiting shuttle.
At the airlock, Brian turned. You came aboard an ambassador's warship, Your Highness. You leave an embassy.
Joseph met his eyes. The galaxy will remember this, Captain. We will remember.
He extended his hand, and Brian shook it firmly. The war that never began was, at last, over. Joseph walked to the shuttle alone, his robes brushing the steel deck. Brian followed at a respectful distance, saying nothing more.
He had entered this ship a sovereign. He left it something else. Not less, but different.
The shuttle lifted, passed through the containment field, and angled down toward the glittering capital.
It won't be the last time a monarch boards this ship, I suspect.
By nightfall, the dreadnought's orbit was formally registered with the Valkyrie Flight Authority as a permanent diplomatic station. The word embassy gleamed on its bow, a quiet insistence that it would never be anything else again. No new treaty was signed, no formal ceremony held. The dreadnought itself was the agreement. In the decades that followed, it received every ambassador. It brokered treaties, witnessed coronations, and never once fired in anger. The plaque that began as a joke became a fixture. It was polished but never replaced, and on every formal communication, Earth still opened with the same line. The Republic interprets your invitation literally. Over time, the plague became a destination. Dignitaries requested tours of the ambassador that became an embassy. Its cannons were never fired in war. Its only ammunition was the absolute refusal to be dismissed. Generations of Valkyrie children grew up under its shadow, and none ever asked why it was there. The plague became the most polished surface in the system. It was polished every month, but never removed. Old Joseph, silvered and slow, would look up from his balcony each evening and nod once toward the stars. The lesson spread. Other empires, when they sent decrees, received answers that made their analysts pause. Diplomacy had not changed. Earth simply had a new word for its ambassadors: dreadnought. The TRS diplomatic solution became the longest-serving embassy in human history. Its captain retired on board and never left. On a clear night, you can still see it, a dark shape crossing the stars, a single word reflecting the light. It reads embassy. It always will. The Republic interprets your invitation literally.